Okay, next is Animan. I guess he says, hi, thanks for a wonderful webinar. My question is, if I use a subdomain, Google will treat it as a separate brand or just like a silo? No, it depends on how you set it up. But if you're setting it up as a branded subdomain, for example, like using what we talked about earlier, setting up a blog on a subdomain, you're going to want to brand it the same. But you can also, like, for example, I've got a lot of multi-location clients or stuff that I do where each subdomain is, we have separate subdomains for different locations. So each city has its own subdomain, so to speak, right? And that they're all the same brand, but they each have their own WordPress installation or subdomain that is city specific. So, but you can set up subdomains to treat them as completely different entities if you want. So it really just depends on how you theme it and how you interlink between the subdomain and the root domain or other subdomains or all of them. Does that make sense? So the good thing is that Google does treat subdomains as separate web entities, like in other words, separate websites. You can create the relationship, the association between the subdomain and the root if you want, or the association with the brand, but the web asset itself, the domain itself, the subdomain is treated as a separate website, if that makes sense. So that way that's why we do it. We've been talking about using subdomains for like multi-location stuff for a long time, because it's a bit safer. If you put separate landing pages as internal pages of a website for multiple location stuff, and any one of your location pages catches a penalty for some reason, then it can pull down the entire domain, right? It can affect all of the other locations because it affects the root as well. However, if you do stuff on subdomains and you, like, for example, have separate subdomains for each location, if any one location gets hit by a penalty for some reason, then it will be isolated to that particular subdomain. It won't affect the root, and it won't affect what I call the other sibling subdomains. So that's why we tell you to do that. But again, it just depends on how you interlink it and what type of associations you make.